In this video, I'm going to show you how you can get a deep dive on your genetic profile to optimize your quality of living, your biomarkers, and anything related to your health. The first thing that you're going to do is actually download your raw data from your platform. In this case, I use 23andMe for my genetic testing. Others may have used tools like Ancestry.com. So if I go to my settings and then I scroll down to the bottom, there's going to be an option to actually download your raw data. And so in this case, what I'm actually looking for is this section down here, raw data. You'll have to make a request and it can take up to 30 days, but then you'll get an email notification letting you know when it's available. I'll hit download raw data, and then I actually get all of my raw data. And just for context, so you can see the depth of this, it's a very comprehensive text file with all of my genetic information. The next thing that I'm going to do is actually go to Google Gemini and I'm going to turn on deep research mode. And so what I'm doing here is I'm actually providing the initial context, which is all of my genetic information. And what I want the model to do is actually do a deep dive on any novel new releases with respect to scientific papers or new research or insights that relate to my genetic profile. So the goal of this is I'm trying to get a more in-depth research output that I can then combine with my genetic profile, so then I can create an agent that has a deep understanding of who I am that I can then converse with if I have questions and I want to learn more about myself. So I let it run through this comprehensive research, and it's very in-depth. If I go down to the bottom, you can actually see all the sources that are used, using a lot of reputable sources. And so I get this final output that I can save. The last piece of the puzzle is actually going to be all of my biomarkers from my blood work and various tests that I've done. I use an app called NIA Health, and on NIA Health, I'm able to actually compile all of my blood work, and I get my blood work done maybe once to twice per year. So I'm able to actually download a report of all of my output. I also combine that with my VO2 max testing. So VO2 max testing is for cardiorespiratory fitness. So you'll actually have to go into a lab, they put this mask over your mouth, and then you'll run on a treadmill and you'll get an output. And then finally, I also got an output report from a DEXA scan, which is a breakdown of my body composition. So it's considered to be the gold standard for measuring body fat, visceral fats, that would be fat around your organs, bone density, and muscle mass. So then I take the outputs of my 23andMe data, this research, and my NIA Health report. And then when I throw all that together in a brand new Gemini chat, I then ask it to create a canvas, and we're calling this my genetic engineering blueprint for myself, Lucas Barnes. And there's some very novel, unique insights that you can get. And then now I'm able to actually just save this on the left by pinning the chat. And I can come back to it whenever I want. If I have any questions, or if I want to ask questions about my diet, supplement stack, when's the most optimal time I should be going to sleep? Should I be consuming caffeine? How much caffeine? And there's just so many novel insights and questions that you can ask. Now, this isn't medical advice. I would always suggest you consult with your healthcare practitioner. But that said, I think we're getting to a new point in time where you can have incredibly in-depth knowledge about yourself if providing all that information to a leading frontier AI model. And so just to give you some examples of some of the novel insights, the ones that I find the most compelling. So for instance, I actually have this genetic profile where it's more challenging for me to actually gain weight. For others, they actually might prefer to have a gene like this, but for me, I actually tend to stay more lean. So it's more tricky for me to actually gain weight and put on muscle mass. And so what it actually recommends here is to increase my caloric intake on a regular basis, especially because I'm quite athletic and I play a lot of sports. And it also recommends increasing my protein intake to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. Then if I go down further, there's more insights with respect to sodium. I do a lot of running and I train for marathons. And so I asked specifically for a breakdown of the right sodium protocol that would work best for me. It talks about caffeine and the fact that I actually process caffeine at a moderate rate. And so I actually don't need too much, and it will take a long time for the caffeine to actually get out of my system. So I should look to limit my caffeine to much earlier in the day, especially if I tend to go to sleep at around 10:30 p.m. And what's more interesting, if I scroll down to the bottom, I actually asked it to provide a psychological architecture and behavioral mechanics. For instance, one of the ones that I find really interesting is I'm a kinetic processor. So your body is built for movement. And so you pace, you ruck, you drive, you need mechanical load to process intellectual load. If you're stuck on a coding problem, do push-ups, blood flow fixes the brain block. So there's a lot of really interesting insights here. And now I have this chat available to myself, and we can have a conversation with this model, which in this case I still have set to Gemini 3 Pro. and we're able to have this context on the right here, which is based again on all of the prior steps that I took before with the deep research, my biomarkers from NIA Health, and then my actual raw genetic data.